First, why do we need wait and notify at all? Imagine two people sharing one kitchen. Person A is a cook, makes food and puts it on the table. Person B is an eater, takes food from the table and eats it. Problem: what if the eater comes to the table but there is no food yet? Option 1. Eater keeps checking the table every second. Is food ready? Is food ready? Is food ready? This wastes energy. In Java, this is called busy waiting or spinning. Option 2. Eater waits patiently. Cook finishes, taps the eater on the shoulder, and says food is ready. Eater wakes up and eats. This is wait and notify. Wait and notify is the tap on the shoulder mechanism in Java. The setup, shared object and synchronized in Java. Wait and notify only work inside a synchronized block. You need a shared object that both threads lock on. Think of the shared object as the kitchen itself. Only one person can be in the kitchen at a time. That is the lock. Code block wait. How it works. When a thread calls wait, three things happen simultaneously. 1. The thread releases the lock on the object. 2. The thread pauses and goes to sleep. 3. The thread joins a waiting room called the wait set. This is the critical point. The thread gives up the lock while waiting. This allows other threads to enter the synchronized block and do their work. Code block. The eater enters the kitchen, acquires the lock, checks if food is on the table, no food, calls wait, releases the lock and falls asleep. Now the cook can enter the kitchen. Notify. How it works. When a thread calls notify, one thing happens. One thread from the wait set is woken up and told, go try to reacquire the lock. Important, notify does not immediately give the lock to the woken thread. The notifying thread still holds the lock until it exits the synchronized block. Only then does the woken thread get a chance to reacquire the lock. Code block. Cook enters the kitchen, acquires the lock, puts pizza on the table, calls notify. One waiting thread, the eater, is woken up. Cook exits synchronized block and releases lock. Eater reacquires lock, checks table, finds pizza, eats it. Notify all. How it works. Same as notify, but wakes up all threads in the wait set instead of just one. Code block. All woken threads then compete to reacquire the lock. Only one wins at a time. Each woken thread checks the condition. Table, eyes empty, and either proceeds or calls wait. Again, if the condition is still not met. Why use while loop and not if for the wait condition? This is a classic interview question. Wrong way. Using if. Code block. Right way. Using while. Code block. Why while and not if? 2 reasons. Reason 1. Spurious wake-ups. The JVM can sometimes wake up a waiting thread for no reason. No notify was called. This is called a spurious wake-up. If you use if, the thread wakes up, skips the check, and tries to remove food from an empty table. Null pointer exception or worse. With while, the thread wakes up, checks the condition again, finds table is still empty, and goes back to sleep. Safe. Reason 2. Notify all wakes multiple threads, but only one can proceed. Imagine 3 eaters waiting and only one piece of food is added. Notify all wakes all 3. Eater 1 gets the lock first, takes the food, exits. Eater 2 gets the lock, checks the condition, table is empty again. With if, Eater 2 would crash. With while, Eater 2 goes back to sleep. Safe. Rule: always use while, never if, when checking the condition before wait. Complete working example. Code block. The sequence of events, step by step. 1. Eater thread enters synchronized block. Acquires lock on kitchen 2. Eater checks table. Empty 3. Eater calls kitchen. Wait. Releases lock. Goes to sleep 4. Cook thread enters synchronized block. Acquires lock on kitchen 5. Cook adds food to table 6. Cook calls kitchen.notify all. Wakes up Eater 7. Cook exits synchronized block. Releases lock 8. Eater reacquires lock. Wakes up 9. Eater checks while condition. Table not empty 10. Eater removes food and eats 11. Eater exits synchronized block. Releases lock notify. Versa does notify all. When to use, which use notify. When? Only one thread can ever proceed after the notification, and all waiting threads are identical. Waking one is enough. Use notify all when multiple threads are waiting, they are waiting for different conditions, or you are not sure. Safer choice in most cases if you use notify and wake the wrong thread, a thread that cannot proceed and that thread calls wait again and goes back to sleep. But the thread that could have proceeded is still sleeping. Deadlock-like situation. Notify all is almost always the safer choice. The performance difference is rarely significant. How this connects to modern Java wait, notify all are low-level and error process. Modern Java gives you better alternatives. Blocking queue handles producer consumer automatically. No wait notify needed. Code block. Reentrant lock with condition. More flexible than synchronized with wait notify in code block. Completable future for async operations without blocking threads at all. Code block. What to watch in the output. All three eaters arrive, all call wait, and release the lock and sleep. Cook wakes up, adds pizza, calls notify all three eaters wake up. Only one eater gets the pizza, the one who reacquires the lock first. The other two eaters reacquire the lock, check the while condition, find table empty, and go back to wait. This demonstrates exactly why while loop is critical. If you had used if, eater 2 and eater 3 would crash trying to remove food from an empty table.